When I was a kid, I couldn't get enough of Dragon Ball Z. It was my introduction to anime, my gateway. I'd watch it whenever I could, no matter how many times I'd seen the reruns. Even in the days when Cartoon Network only had up to Goku's arrival on Namek and would loop back around to the arrival of Raditz again and again and again. But still, I couldn't look away. This was the first time I'd ever seen violence and death dealt with in a way that conveyed such weight and severity in animation, thumbing its nose openly at the shows I'd grown up watching and the way they presented danger and conflict. I'd spend my free time on the now defunct Planet Namek message board, where we'd find 100 different ways to talk about the same old topics over and over again, never running out of things to say about a subject we'd long since beaten into the ground. Maybe it was the fact that it took so long for new episodes to make it to air that kept it feeling exciting. Like something fantastic was still waiting to be seen and discussed, even when we'd exhausted everything already in front of us. It was fascinating, this magical world with powers that seemed limitless yet had hard limits, where death was traumatic yet negligible, where a single new character showing up or a single character changing their hair color could be the most important thing in the universe. I got such a rush out of the build up to the next big fight. All the things Dragon Ball Z is justifiably made fun of over, entire episodes of characters just powering up or staring each other down to pad out the runtime. I was always so frustrated by it, but at the same time, I was always on the edge of my seat because at any moment the fight could kick off and I might bear witness to the next great Goku vs. Vegeta fight that still stands to this day as one of the most exhilarating battles in the franchise. The action, the powers, the constant building suspense, it all came along at just the right time to capture this adolescent boy's imagination. But adolescence doesn't last forever. Eventually, people begin to move on from the things their childhood revolved around. The message boards faded away, and I moved on to other things, leaving behind the perpetual state of anticipation I'd spent so long living in. To this day, I still haven't seen most of the Boo Saga, or any of GT. It just took that long for new episodes to air here. And I saw an entire generation of fans come and go before Cartoon Network could deliver the one thing we wanted most. After that, I spent a lot of years thinking back on Dragon Ball Z as something from my past that I still have fondness for, but would never revisit outside of the occasional GIF or AMV. I'd moved on to other things, to other anime, and then to no anime at all for a long while. When I got back into anime just a year or two ago, I never revisited the things I put so much time into watching back then. I was fine with thinking of Dragon Ball as just one of those things that spoke to me as a kid that I'd moved on from, and so it seemed had the rest of the world. You can imagine my surprise when it came back. A movie, Battle of Gods, was announced and would be the first brand new animated Dragon Ball material in almost 2 decades. And I figured, why not? Why not watch it? It'd be a fun nostalgia trip. If nothing else, I could laugh at how dumb I was to like such a silly thing once upon a time. And for the most part, I was right. The beginning chunk of Battle of Gods is one big love letter to Dragon Ball fandom. The entire cast gathers together and has a party, complete with every callback and reference they could think of, to the point that I honestly don't know how someone without an extensive history with the franchise could get anything out of this part of the movie. And like all good Dragon Ball stories, a new all-powerful opponent shows up out of nowhere that only Goku could possibly stand against. I thought I was in store for the same old thing I'd seen 100 times before in the reruns of my youth, and was hoping to at least get some good original animation out of it. But then the fight started, and what I got was something I never thought I'd see. Goku went all out and couldn't win. Nothing he did, nothing anyone did, made any difference. It reminded me of the Saiyan and Frieza sagas, where the weaker characters desperately tried to buy time for Goku to arrive and save the day. Only Goku was here already, and nobody was coming to the rescue this time. I was still convinced things would stay true to the formula. After all, this was Dragon Ball. There was always a way for the underdog to win. Eventually, they figured out that the entire cast could pour their power into Goku to amp him up enough to stand a chance, but even this defied expectation as Goku finally had enough power to fight back, and he regretted it. The Earth was on the line, everyone's lives hung in the balance, the only thing that could possibly save any of them was this power, and Goku hated the fact that he had it. Dragon Ball has always stressed the importance of earning what you get through hard work, pushing yourself to achieve great things. Goku had become more powerful than he'd ever imagined was even possible, but it was handed to him. He didn't work for it, he didn't earn it, and it felt dirty to him. He says it outright, he doesn't want to ascend to a godly level on the backs of other people's hard work. Even still, he tries his hardest to win, to defend everyone and everything he holds dear, and he fails. Goku lost. There were no hidden reserves to tap into, no new form to unlock, no last-ditch attack or friend waiting in the wings to jump in and help. The hero of Dragon Ball Z, the entire cast of Dragon Ball Z, had given absolutely everything to this fight and came up short. They lost. And in that moment, Goku concedes defeat, knowing full well what would happen next, because what else could he do? Obviously, it all worked out in the end, as the big bad ended up not being so bad, and spared everyone because he was impressed with Goku's resolve. But I was shocked. All at once, out of nowhere, Dragon Ball Z, the series that was both famous and infamous for being this bombastic power fantasy that reassures you left and right that hard work always pays off and there's always a way to win, taught its viewers that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you're still going to come up short, that you can still fail. It showed us that cheating to get ahead won't actually give you what you want the same way hard work will, and in a very literal way, it showed us that failure isn't the end of the world. New movies gave way to a new series, and Dragon Ball Super would continue to show the characters of Dragon Ball Z as people who have come a long way and matured. There's the obvious signs, like characters we knew as children now being parents themselves, and even grandparents. But more than that, their behavior in Super is enough to make you realize just how dramatically different the characters are now compared to the people they used to be. And no character exemplifies this more than Vegeta. When we first met him, he was such a stereotypical villain that he may as well have been tying women to train tracks and twirling his mustache. It wasn't until the Namek saga that we got a glimpse of the person he is. All of his pride and bluster, his willingness to step on the little guy. It wasn't because he thought he was superior to everyone else. It's because he hates feeling inferior. A prince forced into servitude as a lowly grunt, as his history and heritage is wiped away, his only allies in a desperate bid for freedom and revenge being the lowly peasants who humiliated him on Earth, and the low-class commoner who surpassed him. He went from outright refusing to show any affection to his Earthling family, to begrudgingly accepting his role as a father while clinging to the facade that's kept him alive all these years, and eventually becoming a man willing to lay his life on the line to stand by his son. In Battle of Gods, he willingly throws his pride away to placate an unstoppable force because it was the only way he could protect his loved ones. Vegeta is the personification of how far Dragon Ball has come, and how it can still mean more to us than simple nostalgia. It's grown and it's changed in the same ways we have, and yet at the same time, it's stayed true to what it's been all along. There's a sense of comfort I feel watching these characters I've known for so long. It doesn't matter if they're gearing up for a fight or just hanging out. Just the fact that they're still here, still together, makes it feel like they have as much love for the series as I do. Turns out, I never outgrew Dragon Ball. Coming back to it all these years later is like reuniting with old friends I haven't seen in a long time, only to find out they've gone on to do great things, and now they have plenty of cool stories to pass the time. And now we're having fun all over again. While I was definitely more fanatical about it when I was younger, I feel like I'm getting a new level of enjoyment out of the series now, as it's come far enough that its very existence is a celebration of all that got me into the series in the first place, while continuing to give me new adventures to geek out over. It's nowhere close to being the best show I could be watching, but nothing quite scratches this particular itch like Dragon Ball, and I'm glad to see it's just as strong as ever. Thank you everyone for watching. I've had this brewing in my head for a while now, and it feels good to say it all out loud. I'd appreciate it if you share this video with anyone you know who's a Dragon Ball fan, especially if they're a lapsed fan from back in the day. I have to think they'll be as surprised by the current state of the franchise as I was. And to everyone else for whom Dragon Ball isn't your thing, what is? What's the one show, book, movie, stage play, story that you can always go back to and get that certain feeling that nothing else gives you? Please tell me all about it in the comments below or at Dan Kurtzky on Twitter. Because the things that mean the most to us deserve to be discussed with the most passion and depth. But that's enough out of me for now, so I will talk to you all again next time.